I was upset by it because it's, once you put something like that out there, it's 50% of people are going to believe it or want to believe it.
Lisa, I am so excited about this upcoming season 3. I mean, what are you most nervous, most excited about for this season?
Oh my gosh, so many things. So I think like when it comes to being nervous, we didn't exactly leave season 2 that great. And honestly, season 1 didn't end that great either. So I just feel like it's going to be a lot. Just from what I lived, I would definitely say the key word for me for this season is retaliation. Like there's a lot of retaliation, and not from me, from others.
From others. I mean, leaving off the reunion, how are you feeling? And kind of when you started this season, like you said, were you kind of going into this season with the mindset of retaliation, or how did you kind of approach this season?
No, I went into this season thinking like, hopeful that I could make amends based on the way we left things at the reunion. I was hopeful that I'm like, okay, we should be able to make amends. Like when you're friends with someone for 10 years, you should be able to go in and have a conversation and make amends. And I just think right off the back, it was like ice Lisa out, be super cruel to Lisa and punish her, which that's not how I live. That's not how I behave. So I was kind of surprised, especially given the fact that like, hey, I took full responsibility for my hot mic moment. And honestly, for me, there was so much buildup going into my room that night in Zion. Like I had just had enough, like van ride from hell, dinners from hell. Like there was nothing, like there were peaks of like happy moments, like one night when we were all dancing. But other than that, it was kind of rough. And I think for me, I had just had enough. I didn't want to be mean to my friend. I went in my room and I thought it was going to be private. Like I was packing my stuff to leave and I'm like, get me out of here. I mean, there were expletives in there and I didn't really think about it. Like after I called my husband and I'm like, I was so upset, like I couldn't take anymore. And then to have to watch that like 24 hours before the reunion, I was like, it didn't matter what else was said or done. It became like the fixation point. And where I thought I had good relationships and where I thought I was going into the reunion with others, like being my friend, it was like, a pile-on. And luckily I have like a strong sense of self and, I'm not afraid of conflict, but it was a lot. So, that definitely carried into the beginning of season 3. And, I knew that I needed to repair, like I wanted to repair friendship, but there's only so much you can do before it gets to a point where you're like, okay, like, I don't need this. Yeah. So I think it was rough.
Yeah, no, I mean, did you want to repair that friendship with Meredith? And did you think that you would? Because, I watched the first episode and, we see you kind of go up to Seth at the party and try to like make amends that way. But were you hopeful going into that would happen?
I didn't think we couldn't make amends because when you look at the things that other people in our friend group have said, like the whole Zion trip, 10 boyfriends, 10 lives, half of the Upper East Side, so many other things were said. And it wasn't things I felt. Those weren't things I was thinking. Those weren't things I felt. Those were not things that were confided in me. I just literally hit a boiling point where I'm like, oh my God, my feelings don't matter. And I'm so upset. And then to have to like, you're basically asking for forgiveness. And I just seeing all the other relationships and the damage that has happened with other relationships, I was hopeful that I'm like, we just need to have a conversation. We need to talk it out. I did not repeat anything that was told to me in confidence. I was venting out of hurt, not out of anger. It wasn't malicious. I was hurt. Like I was hurting. And for me, I was like, no one's asking me why I'm upset. I have not seen the first episode, by the way. So I don't even know what's in it. Just from the clips I'm seeing and what I lived, I'm like, this is not going to be fun.
No. But is it frustrating to see Meredith and Jen, at least at the beginning of the season? I don't know what happens later on, but at least when filming starts, that Jen and Meredith are really good friends. Did you ever think that would happen after last season?
The irony of that, it's kind of gross because it's like I spent all last year, a year and a half, saying, please make up, please be friends, being the go-between, trying to help it out. And then I'm like, oh, you can forgive all of this, like your family being terrorized, your Brooks being terrorized online. You can forgive everything and then act like it didn't happen. They tried to rewrite history. And by the way, I always wanted them to be friends. So good for, like, I'm happy that I was able to help facilitate that, but they literally took that hot mic moment and clung to it. And it was like rewriting history. I'm like, this is not normal. This is not okay. You guys literally are living in la la land. It's complete faux, fake, fraud, all those things. Like, it is literally ridiculous. Like, how do you go from having those strong feelings, Meredith gloating in the bathtub with a glass of champagne, just waiting for Jen's demise, and then all of a sudden they're best friends. And the irony of Meredith going to Jen to talk about me is like, wow.
Yeah. I mean, we have to talk about this rumor that it seems like Meredith kind of starts this season implying that you slept with people to, advance Vita. What was your reaction to that? And what do you have to say about that?
I make amazing tequila. Vita tequila is amazing. And I don't need to sleep with people to sell it. Like, it sells on its own because it's a highly rated, highly regarded, beautiful product. And we've been in business for 17 years. Mm-hmm. That allegation is just ridiculous.
Was it?
I mean, there's where the retaliation comes in. It's like, hey, I'm going to punish you because you had a hyperbolic rant repeating what everybody else had been saying. I'm going to punish you. It's like, are you going to punish everybody else too? Or is it just going to be fixated on me? That's how it feels.
Did you almost feel like an outsider coming into this season then? Because I know, the first episode we see you having lunch with Heather, and Heather's like, I can't believe I'm even doing this. So did you feel like you didn't really know who to turn to when this all first started?
100%. And honestly, I think there's a lot of hypocrisy that happens, just based on even the things Heather told me in Zion. And I talked to Heather about it. I'm like, you guys all flipped on me. Everyone was telling me Meredith was a bad friend to me. And I was feeling it. I watched the Housewife after show. I know what Meredith was saying behind my back. It wasn't nice. And that's pre-hot mic moment. So I did feel like a little bit of an outsider. And I was told they all tried to ice me out. Mm-hmm. And, that was like a little mean girl high school. I don't live in that kind of space. So, for me, I was like, okay, it wasn't going to be easy, but I'm not afraid to hit things head on. The one thing I have on my side is my truth. And so for me, I was like, let's just talk it out, because clearly there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of stuff being said, no accountability, rewriting of history. And I'm like, we need to address some of this, but I do take full responsibility. I mean, I said horrible things that have hurt. I've apologized 22 times. And for me, I'm like, I'll take accountability for what I said and did. I know what I did was hurtful, and I take responsibility for that. But it doesn't negate the fact that there was a lot of hurtful things said and done, and not just to Meredith, but to me too.
Right. Where does your friendship with Meredith stand now?
I mean, how are we using the word friendship? but I think Meredith and I get to a good place, and then there's all this nitpicking that constantly happens with me. And I mean, I am confident and secure with myself. So if you want to rip me apart and that makes other people feel better, go ahead and rip me apart. If that makes you feel a little better today, that's on you. It's not on me. But I have tried to have repair over and over and over again. And I don't want to be Jen Shah 2.0 with the apology tour. I'm just, I apologize enough. I meant my apology. It was sincere. And that's just kind of where I am right now.
Yeah. There's only so many times that you could say you're sorry. So which friendship kind of surprised you then the most this season? Obviously dynamic shift then. So who were you kind of leaning on this season?
I wasn't really leaning on anyone. It just is what happened organically. I think that from the beginning, people have an idea, season 1, we can go back there. They have an idea of who I am, how I think, how I feel. I'm constantly being narrated. So it's this is what Lisa thinks. This is what Lisa's doing. And none of it was true. And I think the surprising friendship was, I don't even want to say it's surprising. Whitney and I never really had any real big problems. It was silly stuff, dumb stuff. Oh, you don't like my dress or whatever. But there was nothing tragic happened. Mm-hmm. Nothing that was tragic happening between us. So when we went to Arizona, she and I flew, I don't want to get too much into the story, but she and I flew there before everybody else. And we had a really great conversation. And I think that that was a turning point. Like I said, it happened very organically, where Whitney and I started to see like, hey, you know, maybe we have more to talk about than we thought we did. Maybe I always kind of like backed away from Whitney because I'm like, that's Heather's cousin, that's Heather's close friend. And I just like understand dynamics, and you don't want to step on anybody's toes. And so I kind of always just kind of held myself back and just was like, hey, if we're meant to be friends, it'll happen. And I think that that was the starting point for Whitney and I hearing each other. And we started to see each other very differently too. Like I really started to see Whitney in a different light, and for who Whitney is, not just like Heather's cousin, but it was like Whitney as her own person. I actually think Heather and I always have the greatest conversations. And then she disappoints me when she like comes at me or like decides to blindside me, because I'm like, that's not where we were. That's not the place we were in. Like, why are you doing this to me? It's like literally like a 180 from what I expect from her. And, like, I feel like Heather and I are fine. It's just not like where it could be or should be. And, we have good moments though. Like we have really good moments.
Did you give Heather that black eye then?
No, that was not from me.
Look at the mystery of this season.
I don't get physical.
How did these, rumors about, infidelity and things like that, did that put a strain on your marriage at all?
No, it didn't. Because, the one thing, John and I have been married for 19 years. The only thing that was really awkward is like, I came home and I was like telling our children, I'm like, hey, there's ridiculous rumors, and it includes people that we care about. And, it's not something that either of us were like, I was upset by it because it's once you put something like that out there, it's 50% of people are going to believe it or want to believe it. And I think the thing is like, John and I have been married for a long time. We've gone through a lot together, and we work really hard at our marriage every single day. Like, if you're married this long, especially in this world that we live in, like I come from divorce. My parents are divorced. All my sisters are divorced. Out of 6 kids, it's just me and my brother that are actually still married. So you fight for your marriage. Like it gets me upset. Like, retaliation is a bitch.
Right. Yeah.
You know what? I said something hyperbolically that everybody else had said, but only I'm getting punished for it. So kind of sucks.
Right. Obviously, it still makes you really upset about it all these months later. I mean, it's, I think people tend to forget that this is still your real life.
Yeah, it's still my real life, And like I said, John and I work really hard at our marriage. We own businesses together. We're raising 2 beautiful children together, and you want to protect what you work really hard for. So like, that's like what my focus has been on, is like my husband and my kids. We have a son that's getting ready to go to college. We only have him here for 1 more year. So for me, sorry, I'm just gonna, it upset me a little bit because it's like, I didn't expect that from Meredith. Like I understand my hot mic moment was rough, but I didn't go around to other people spreading rumors about her gossip. I just wanted to vent in my room and get out all my hurt. I didn't want to include anyone. I've never talked badly about Meredith to anybody in our friend group. And so it was really hurtful to like just even see clips of her. Like it's, Meredith has a law degree, and it's all about your intention. What is your intention? Her intention was to hurt me and my family. Mine was letting out hurt, and her intention is to hurt me. And it's disappointing. It's pretty much everything she's against. So like what she's been saying, don't talk about my family, don't talk about my kids. She's doing everything she said she wouldn't do or doesn't do. So it was really hard.
I'm sure. It's like, you're mourning a 10-year friendship, and that's not easy. Obviously, a big storyline this season too is Jen's legal issues. Were you blindsided when she pled guilty?
I believe in due process, and I've been extremely consistent with Jen. I do believe Jen deserved due process, and Jen told us she's innocent, and I believed my friend Jen that she was innocent. I think that, the one thing like I have been saying all along is if Jen is guilty, I will 100% side with the victims. But that doesn't take away from the fact that Jen's still a person, and she's going to have to like pay amazing amount of penance with years off of her freedom. And, when she pled guilty, I don't know. I think it's her business and her husband's business. And I think that she made a decision based on like what she had hired counsel guiding her on doing. I wasn't there for that. Like Jen and I weren't speaking. I did send her a text saying, hey, good luck with everything. You know, we're, you know, hoping for the best for you. And, you know, my relationship with Jen, I've always kept separate from the indictment. One doesn't have anything to do with the other, but, you know, it's a big deal. I mean, that's a long time to be separated from your family, and it's a big sentence to pay. Yeah. So, you know.
How does your friendship with her kind of evolve this season or devolve, I guess?
You know, Jen's complicated, and I know I have a clear conscience. I have been a great friend to Jen. And I know I've been a good friend to Jen. I was there for her when nobody else was. And I think I'm learning that in certain friendships, I'm more willing to be a better friend than others are to me. And, you know, I'm always hopeful things are reciprocated, but I think I stayed consistent in my friendship with Jen. And I think by, you know, as we get to today, I think it was impossible to continue a friendship where it's one-sided, where I'm being her friend and it's not being reciprocated. And that's completely extraneous from her legal situation. I don't conflate the two. It's how you're treating me is how I'm like feeling and responding back to you. But I mean, we had a lot of good times, and, you know, we ended where I thought like we could go in a repair phase, but it didn't end up that great.
Yeah. Talk about the new ladies that we're going to see this season. You know, it seems like they're definitely bring some drama as well.
Dana's amazing. Like, Dana is young and feisty. I love that she's super hardworking. I think a lot of things we have in common is we're both entrepreneurs. She also works with her husband, which is really cool. And she's got a huge personality and very funny, super sweet. And Angie Castanevis and I have been friends for a very long time. I get my hair done there at her salons. And Angie actually filmed with me quite a bit last year. She was at events with my family, and, you know, the infamous fight between me and Jen was at her salon prior to the van ride. And I just think that she brings something really fresh too. And it's really nice having friends on the show. Like, it's actually been like a lot of fun for me. We have a lot in common. We have kids. Her youngest daughter and my youngest son are the same age. So we have a lot in common, and we're going through a lot of the same things as mothers, and we're both self-made and entrepreneurs. So I think that like really is something great, but they both have strong opinions, backbones, and are super feisty.
Excited to see it. Have you spoken to Mary at all?
No, Mary sent me one text prior to the reunion. And, you know, I just look at it as like Mary and I are, you know, like, I don't have a problem with Mary. I don't think Mary has a problem with me. We just parted ways. I was very close friends with Cameron, who passed. And, you know, I want to maintain my friendship with his family, and I believe my friend Cameron. So really, you know, he introduced us to Mary, and I feel like I wish Mary well. I'm sure she's doing just fine.
For more news, content, and exclusive interviews, make sure to hit the sub, like, and bell button down below, and visit usmagazine.com.